Thank you for your patience. But today we're talking about identifying your speaking topics and what is going to be your superpower as a speaker. And your experience, again, is what has gotten you here. So when you look back at your life and think about what is it that you are most passionate about, when you came into the true value of your voice, you came in because you know you have a message for the world. I'm a God girl. I talk about it all the time. And I'm unashamedly a very avid Christian. And whether you are or not, I don't judge or try and convert anybody, but it's a big part of who I am. So it is a big part of what influences me. And so for me, I knew I had a calling and I knew I've been through a lot in my life and I've experienced a lot. But one day I realized that those experiences are really my story. So it really happened one time right after my husband died. I was about 12 weeks out and I had set up my businesses, both of them, so that I could step away. And by the way, a lot of what I teach in my company, Childcare Business Professionals, was born through what happened when my husband was when I knew he wasn't going to make it. He got really, really sick, and it got very hard to manage work and my business. So I had no choice but learn how to delegate, how to create systems of operations, how to really empower my staff to do my job, right? I had to learn how to walk away. And so I knew it was coming. I mean, he was only given a couple months to live. So I got together with some other business coaches, different people. It was actually the coach that was training me at the time. And I just I need to figure something out. I knew losing my spouse of 29 years was going to be, I wasn't going to be able to go to work, so I basically figured I need to figure out 12 weeks where my businesses can survive without me. So we put together my systems of operations, all the things that I now teach in order for me to be able to walk away from work for the 12 weeks to really grieve and just to be alone. So when the time came, I did. I walked away and I was able to completely walk away, disconnect. Now I've told you guys this week, I have struggled with agoraphobia. So disconnecting for somebody with agoraphobia can be a little bit dangerous, which back then I didn't realize that. But at the 10-week mark, I just remember waking up one morning thinking, I don't want to go back. And I looked at my life and I just thought I could sell my companies and basically liquidate, and I never have to work again. I'd live a pretty modest life, but I have enough that I could survive. I had a nice house and I could survive. I could just be fine. I could live comfortably, but I wouldn't be going on vacations, but I could live comfortably for the rest of my life and I wouldn't have to work. So I really thought about it. I really thought about just walking away. And I was really consumed with grief. But the thought of going back to work over the next 2 weeks was crippling to me. So I prayed and I just was really asking God, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to move forward on this? And basically, I had this epiphany. And I realized in that moment that I was living my testimony. I was literally in the middle of what was going to become my testimony or my story, right? For if you're not a religious person, it's just your story. And I also realized I am literally the author of my story. I am writing my story right now. And I get to choose how this story plays out. So I literally just started journaling every day. And that's when I started a gratitude practice. And I started really changing my paradigm to how blessed my life was. Right. And I decided to take a piece of paper out and write, okay, who do I want my children in 1 year to look back at and say, my mom is this person? And I decided to treat that next year as if I was writing my story and I was a character in my story, and I'm going to fulfill this role of the woman I want my children to see. As I went through this first year, I also realized that my story was really important and that I needed to get it out into the world. And that was really when I realized the value of my own voice, why I called this the value of your voice, right? Because I realized this story that I lived through, losing my husband as a 44-year-old woman of 20, I was with him since I was 15 years old. I had never experienced adult life without him. So this whole journey of losing him, and for the first time in my life, having to be an adult without him, not to mention the fact that my oldest son graduated from college and my son turned 18 all in the same year. I went from being a mom with her boys and her husband to being an empty nester overnight. And that was pretty traumatic for me. So I realized I need to talk about this. I also realize that so many women give up their life, right, for their husband and their children. Thank God when I was 27 years old, I made a conscious decision not to. And I made a conscious decision to have a career. Had I not made that decision, I would literally, I don't know what I would be doing right now. I probably would have lost my house. I probably would have had to get a job somewhere like Walmart. But I also realized at that point that that's why it was so important for me to step up and start speaking for other women. I realized that it was so important that I really start to speak and have this voice. And that's where I found the value of my voice and it's part of what I speak on. So now I speak on a few different things. I speak on why you have to have systems of operations, a contingency plan. People, you just never know, right? I literally built an entire business on protecting your childcare center in case you have to step away. And that's turned into something completely different, but it's really what I teach. How do you make sure that your business goes on without you? Well, that also enables you to scale and grow, right? So, what life experiences do you need to speak on? Because when you go into a career like this where you're coaching, training, mentoring, it's a calling. This is bigger than you. Your experience, how can your experiences and what you have been through save someone in the future from the kind of pain and heartache that you've been through? Or perhaps, like I said yesterday, maybe you didn't go through pain and heartache, but you went into a situation and owned it. And then you look at all these other people and they really struggle through it, right? It's like this huge struggle for them. But for you, it's a piece of cake. And you look at these people and think, I know what you need. Those are your speaking topics. What are you passionate about? You have to love it. You have to love it. It has to mean more to you. It has to come from your heart because that is really what's going to keep you going. No matter what you do in life, there's going to be ups and downs. I do like to think of life as a spring, right? I always think of like the spring, how it's going around. Sometimes you're on top, but then you slip down, then you go up, and then you slip down and you go up, right? So the key is how do you stay even through the ups and the downs? How do you keep that perspective and keep going? And what it comes down to is your passion, your purpose, and your vision. When you understand your passion, purpose, and vision, and it is what drives you, you'll make it through anything. You will be able to persevere and you will work those late nights. And hopefully you don't have to for long. It's one of the things I like to teach on is you don't have to, I don't believe in beast mode anymore like I used to once upon a time. But sometimes you have to. Sometimes it just happens and you go into seasons like I'm in right now where an employee leaves unexpectedly and you have to pick up the slack. But what keeps me going in these times, right? When I could sell, but why can't I really, right? Because it's so passionate for me and it is my purpose. So when you're figuring out what is it that you're going to speak about, you really have to know what is it that I need? What am I bringing to the world? Why my posts, when I posted about the true value of your voice, I was very intentional with the language I used and the post I put out there because I'm trying to attract people that I know have a message that needs to get out into the world. So if you look at the posts that whatever social media post caught your attention, it had something to do with your passion, right? I'm always targeting people who are passionate. And so there was something in that message that made you think, yes, I need to get my message out. The world needs to hear what I am teaching. The world needs to hear what I have to say. So what is that? What is it that you know you have to share with the world? Is anybody brave enough to share what it is? Like, what message do you want to bring to the world? So, Christina, I know you have a book inside of you. So, what is your passionate message?
Um, I want to I want to empower women to take their life back. So I want to share my recovery story so that I can help other women be brave as well.
So you can see how that is something she's been through, right? She's overcome and now she's in recovery and she's been able to own her life back. I know for Christina, she's very passionate about being a mother in recovery. It's one of her big things is being able to show up for her children, even though her children are pretty much grown now too. It's still something that she's extremely passionate about. And I also want to point out that with her voice, she's going to see her value through a book, right? Which books do lead to stages. They just it's kind of a natural progression. But I don't know if Christine will ever want to be on a stage or do a train and I'm pretty sure she'll probably end up wanting to do like a support group, just knowing who she is. So those are the things that she is passionate about. So does anybody else have the courage to say what they're I know Angel, you and I've worked together in other areas, so I know that you have some major passions and things that you want to get out there. So you guys use this forum too as being brave. I know it's hard to start speaking, but remember, like we said yesterday, courage is a muscle. You build it little bits at a time, right? So when you're on calls like this, build your courage by starting to speak up little by little. And then when you're live, speak up because then it'll just make it that much easier and easier and easier to be able to get in front of people on a stage. So anybody.
Well, I'm getting ready to retire after 28 years in early childhood. And so I want to be able to help other directors and teachers because I want children to be children. I want us directors to connect with their staff. They have to. You have to make those connections. And if you connect with your staff, then you're going to be able to connect with those parents and make a difference in the lives of children. And all of my work has been in a faith-based preschool. So I also want the Bible stories told in fun ways and exciting ways, and to carry it throughout the entire week, which is what we've really been working on this year at my school. And we have chapel, and then we um, reiterate it in music class, and we do a fun Friday. So the activity there is centered around that Bible story. They're not just hearing one story for that week; they're hearing that one story 3 or 4 or 5 times.
Yes.
And we're doing it school wide, and you've got to do that. I mean,
Yes.
I want other schools to do that also.
I so agree. I grew up in the private school, and so we would go to the same church, and our private schools connected. And those stories are so ingrained into me. It's amazing, and it's so life changing. I 100% agree with you. The other thing I think that's beautiful about what you're doing is, as a child care business coach, I cannot even tell you how many church-based directors reach out to me, and they're just desperate for help. And a lot of times the boards and pastors aren't there for them. So they just need a community of support so badly that they really just need that community of support. So that is a beautiful, and I have some people I can connect you with too. Yolandra, she joined the full True Value of Your Voice that starts next week, and she's faith-based as well. A little bit different, but I think that's definitely a great team. And I think it's something that's really a huge calling right now. So that's awesome and much needed in this space. So that, yeah, that's fantastic being able to start training, speaking, uh, different venues for a lot of that. So that's wonderful. So what else? Is anyone else brave enough to share what the message that they have to get out into the world? What is it that you know the world needs to hear? Tammy, are you trying to unmute? Oh, I think Tammy. Oh, Tammy, you're muted again if you were trying to unmute.
Sorry, my phone keeps going in and out. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Trying to get home for the night. I'm just trying to get the volume back. I lost you when I was in the car.
Oh,
I'm going to keep messing with it though, but I can hear you guys.
okay, great. So picking your talk and then really just going with it. You may have more than one. Like Cheryl, since you are what you're doing, you may actually be like teaching something on social emotional competencies and how they pertain to Bible studies, right? There's so many different trainings that you can put together based on what you're talking about. Now, when it comes to keynotes, I would really narrow it down to the one thing, which is exactly what you were saying, like the power of stories in the Christian classroom, right? And there's lots of organizations that would love to have that spoken on. And that's your overall subject is awesome too, because you could use that to speak to owners, directors, and Sunday schools, not just. So that's another great thing to point out is your subject is so versatile that there's many different stages that you can market that to, which is an important point. Like for me, even though I am like super niched, yesterday we talked about really getting niche down, I'm still hired to speak for other industries all the time because bottom line for me, business is business, right? And Cheryl, for you, people who are pouring into children of faith, K through 12, it doesn't matter. It's the same message. Yes, you're niche to early childhood, but that message is much bigger than early childhood. And what you guys will notice is as you get this momentum going and as you get a name made and people start saying, hey, I went to the seminar, she'd be great teaching our Sunday school in community cohort or, whatever, things like that. And you start getting invited into a lot of different places. But what's important about your speaking topic is really being known for something. Like, what is it that you're known for, right? And having that, and that's where your speaking topics need to match your niche. It needs to match who are you? What are you speaking on? This niche you're speaking for. Now, these topics are going to align with that niche and who you're speaking for. And then, the most important thing, and then we start building out your talk through that. So I think, again, like we spoke about yesterday, it's important now that you know these topics, we're going to really look at your life's journey. Why is it that these are so important to you? A lot of times you can take it back all the way to your early childhood education, right? In one of my main talks I do that I get probably contracted, one of the most is called Fierce Leadership. And I talk about being a leader, just really what it takes to be that fierce leader who's going to fight. I like to think of a lioness. Okay. If you've ever studied a lioness, lionesses are actually one of the most loving, nurturing mothers on the planet. They also play. They also have this sisterhood community that is beautiful. They really align with their sisterhood and they work together in this sisterhood. Now, if anybody comes in and threatens their cubs, they are one of the most fierce creatures in the planet, right? Even if their lion comes in and threatens one of their cubs, the sisterhood of lionesses will attack. They protect their babies, right? So I always like to think of fierce leadership like we're those lionesses and we will do whatever it takes, but we protect and we serve and we nurture, but while we have fun and also while we are loving, right? But when it turns time, it's time to stand up. And in that speech I do, I go back to my childhood and I literally have a picture of 5-year-old me. And I talk about why did I choose this? Why did I choose early childhood education? And I tell the story of my own childhood and how early childhood education changed my life, because I was raised by an alcoholic, abusive father and a mother who immigrated from Honduras to the United States. And as an immigrant, my mom really just, it was really difficult with her not understanding American culture. And then my father somewhat taking advantage of that and being an abusive husband, right? But then what early childhood education can do for me is it serves as that release and gives me the social emotional skills I need, the executive brain function. So I tell the story of me at 5 years old, and I literally tie in, why did I become an early childhood professional based on my 5-year-old experiences. So as you're looking at your topics, you're going to notice that the reason you're so passionate about this may not be what you think, right? For me, telling my story and tying that to what happened with my husband, that's pretty obvious, and that's very recent. But why did I choose a career in early childhood education? I had to dig deep for that one. And when I correlated it to my early years, it really was, it struck a chord, but it's also what makes my talk so powerful, because it helps me not only understand why I do this, but it can help other leaders understand too, right? And it makes it that relatable. All of us were a child once. So when I tell my story, people automatically think of themselves as a child. Now, let me actually go back. When I told you guys my story at the beginning of this about me losing my husband, how many of you could envision yourself in my shoes? How many of you automatically, yeah, you can actually think like, oh my gosh, what would I do if I lost my husband at 44, right? Or when I was 44, what if my husband passed away? It makes me relatable, and it makes it real, right? And it helps you to see me more from that human perspective, which I've been talking about all week. So important when you're picking these keynotes, all of this is going to stack together, and you're going to look at, who am I? What are my experiences? Even if it was your childhood, what have I overcome? What is the result of that? How can I help? This is what we're going to speak on. Do you see how that all flows together to create that circular pattern? And these are our topics. So, and also, who am I talking to? How is this going to help them? Really taking them through this journey of, this is what I'm going to do for you. So it kind of, you got to go through all of that just to figure out, okay, so what is my talk going to be? You may know what you're going to speak on, but now how are you going to make it real? Right? So I think, Cheryl, you gave just such a beautiful example of being so niche down on Christian childcare leadership, right? And creating environments that really reiterate those. So you've got a whole talk right there. Now it's just basically creating the structure. And then as what I found is, as you're creating the structure, you come up with beautiful names. It's suddenly like, wow, as I was creating my fierce leadership, and I really was looking at comparing us as leaders to lionesses, I just was like, yeah, that's fierce, right? They fiercely love, they fiercely embrace, they fiercely play. But and when it comes time to be a ferocious mama, they are ferocious moms, but they're also in this fierce sisterhood. So you guys will find those things, and don't be afraid to use ChatGPT. I did it earlier today. I was contracted to write a book, and I'm trying to figure out what to name the book. And my but the editor who was assigned to me, she's just like, I don't like the title you came up with. So I went into ChatGPT, and I just was like, okay, give me a title for a book. This is what I like. My editor doesn't like it. It needs to feel this. And the more description you give ChatGPT, the better. You cannot overfeed it information. If it gives you something you don't like, say, you know what, I really don't like this because, and then give it more information, right? You could even literally cut and paste your entire speech into ChatGPT and say, give me a title for the speech. Because sometimes titles are the hardest thing to do. So you could even do that. And it'll actually really help a lot. Don't underestimate the power. The other thing, you guys, is when you're creating your speeches, statistics are really good. Shocking statistics are a very good thing to have. I'll actually say, hey, I actually did it earlier today too. I'm writing a speech on, I was for a proposal. I'm writing a proposal on this, this, and this. I need a shocking statistic about, and then it gave me a list of like 20. So instead of you doing all the research on the web, it'll tell you, or I need to find an author that speaks on, that backs my position of, it'll give you all the data. So it's really a wonderful way of cutting your time. You guys could even go into ChatGPT and say, hey, I really want to help women who are struggling with sobriety and motherhood. Where can I find them? Or what are some great topics for me to create a keynote speech? So if you're a little bit lost, that's another way that you could do it. And then just keep asking for clarifying questions, and that helps a lot. So I'll just pause for a minute. Does anyone have any questions so far? We all good? Okay. So your journey really is going to inform your speaking topics, and it's going to really just, those hurdles are your gold mine. They are impactful and they are meaningful, and it helps you with your relatability. The other thing is, a lot of times we get, like we talked about, the imposter syndrome, right? We feel like absolute imposters, but our experiences, they are our expertise. Overcoming the challenges and having the solutions and being able to duplicate those issues, like when you will go through the same things again, right? Sometimes for me, because I've overcome having agoraphobia, it doesn't mean it's forever. So I'll, like what I said earlier, when I came out of that period after my husband passed away, I had to fight it again. I didn't actually become agoraphobic again, but I was tempted. I was definitely tempted to not go back into society. So I had to go back to where I had been 10 years before and just be consciously aware and duplicate what I did, right? So that does, like, what you've overcome and you use it on a daily basis, it is a duplicatable practice that makes you an expert in your own right. If it's something that you can use and teach others, and it is tried and true. So don't allow that imposter syndrome to make you feel like, well, I'm just not good enough. There's something that is just missing in me, because you have overcome. Your life experiences qualify you enough. So the other thing with that is it will help you to make those really deep emotional connections with the people around you, even with just organizers. And it makes you so powerful that when people are planning these events, they want to hire you because you're real and you're using your real life experience. And those emotional connections make you endearing to people, and it makes you so memorable. And that is just a huge, important piece of the puzzle. One other thing I want to point out to you, when I'm teaching true value of your voice, I'm very intentional with everything I do. I am very intentional about the days that I'm standing. If you guys notice little nuances. On Monday, when I came in, we started. It was very formal. I was standing at my desk. I had my formal camera on. I had my formal microphone on. It was much different feel than it is today, right? I spent most of my time behind a PowerPoint. Yesterday, as I started, I was, I think I was sitting, I can't remember now. I think I was sitting yesterday too. And I had my PowerPoint, but I spent a lot less time behind a PowerPoint, right? Today, much more casual. I'm sitting, not using my PowerPoint at all. And I'm treating today's conversation much more as just a conversation between us and more of a mentorship type of a role, right? I went from trainer and I'm slowly transitioning to mentor. That is all very, very intentional. As I'm creating these 5 days, I literally spell out to myself, day 1, we have to be the formal, getting to know you. Day 2 is going to be, okay, we're pulling it back a little bit. And I literally write this out. As I'm constructing, I literally have this written out. By day 3, I'm going to transition more into, okay, now I can transition more into the mentorship, Let's get to know each other. And by tomorrow, I'll even be a little bit more like, let's have a conversation, right? Because now we're colleagues and let's work together. So as you're creating these keynotes, your keynote is going to be like my day one, very formal, right? And it depends on your audience. Some audiences aren't going to want you so formal, but most of the time, your first impression is going to be like that persona, right? All of us have a different persona, right? We have our professional persona, who, if you're going to go meet with a banker for a business loan, that's your professional. You're not going to dress the same as you would going out with your girlfriends, right? And then you're going to have like that next like business casual persona, how you're going to show up to your job every day where you're a little bit more, but you want to be presentable. And then you're going to have like your church persona, I know for us, and then like your gym persona, right? It's all who we are. All of those are pieces of us. So your keynote is going to be more of that professional persona. You are proving that you are the expert, 100%. Now, if you're contracted to speak at a conference, you might do a keynote. Most conferences are also going to want you to do a training module. So when I'm doing those keynotes, I am 100% professional me, that in a suit, right? Like I was Monday. Now we're going to transition into the trainings. I'm going to be a little bit more like the me now. I want to have conversations. I want you to see that I am approachable and we can have a relationship. And I want you to really feel comfortable with me. So I will go as far as changing, or I might have a blazer on, take the blazer off, right? That's a really easy way to tone it down a little bit. But it's a very nice way to transition from that keynote professional to a little bit more approachable, but you still want to be the professional in the room, right? Like the authority. So it is that transition from those different personas. The other thing is you want to have something to sell, right? Because speaking alone isn't going to be what really helps you to create like the wealth that you can from having a speaking business. But if you have something else to sell, and it could just be a really quick course, it could be a book, it could be a lot of different things. It could be just a manual with a lot of stories that children or teachers could use in a classroom. But something afterwards, that is really, really where you're going to actually make the money in a speaking business. So when you transition from that keynote to the training is really where you're going to make those sales. That's when you're going to convert. Okay. So, and the key is conversions. We like when I go for a speaking engagement, where I'm going to make the bulk of my income is conversions. And when I'm assessing, am I going to take this contract or not? I am looking at my ability to convert. If I can't convert, unless they're paying me $10,000 to $20,000, it's not worth me going. Because again, like I was telling you guys, you got to figure out when you go on a speaking engagement, you've got the day for travel, the day you're speaking, and another day for travel. That's 3 full days of work. So a lot of times people will come to me and say, well, I only charge $1,500. Like, really, do you normally work for $500 a day? Because that's all you're making. That's it. So just keep that in mind. But now I will speak for free and just have them pay for my travel if I know I have a high conversion rate, because conversion's where it's at. And in the true value, like if you guys decide to move on from this mini course into the full true value of your voice, we will teach you guys on conversion opportunities. Like, how do you create a product to convert with? How do you create multiple streams of income? How do you get endorsements? That's another big way I do it, is just get companies to endorse you and pay for you to go speak at free events. So we'll discuss all of that. How do you create trainings that you can sell online instead of just doing it live, so that they make money for you while you do nothing? I literally have trainings out there in the world that people can purchase right now. They could be taking it and I can be producing an income from it while I'm sitting here with you guys. So there's a lot of different ways that your speaking career is going to trickle. What I want you guys to think about is this is like a funnel, right? And if you look at it, you've got this big funnel. Your social media, like we were talking about, that online presence that you have is going to trickle people into your funnel. Your speaking is going to trickle people into your funnel. If you're doing trainings, that's going into your funnel. The key is to get people drip all the way through to buy your product. So, and we can talk about what is your product? What can you develop? Because many of you may not have one, and that's okay. They're easy to develop. That can almost be the easier part. So once we get that developed, it's not, and just having it out there for the world to constantly purchase, the harder part gets to be getting it out to the world and selling it. So do you guys have any questions for me or anything right now? You guys are very quiet today, so we have some extra time. No questions? Okay. Well, we are going to end early if you guys don't have any questions. That's or if you guys want to discuss any of it too, I don't mind. We can do some discussion as well. If any of you are interested in coming into the true value of your voice, let us know. We would love to jump with you on a call. It does start next week. And for this week, we are selling it at 50% off. I normally charge $1,500. I'm only selling it for $750. It is a 3-month course. We do take payments on it. So let us know. We're willing to jump on a call, and we do go deep into all of these things. We do help you. I give you a template to create your talk. And we just go a lot deeper on all of these. This is a good start where you guys can get started. But if you're ready to go and let's get this moving, I know Angel's already in. You're in. So she's going to be starting with us next week. But if anyone else is interested, let us know, and we would love to jump. You can send me a message, Christina, Richmond, wherever you're getting the emails, just reply. We'll get back to you guys on that.
I didn't realize my name wasn't on there.
Now, Christina is, it says childcare building blocks, but she is, there she goes. It's there now. So any questions or comments, ladies? Okay, well then I will give you 15 minutes of your lives back. I know I appreciate when I get time back. So have a wonderful day, and we will see you guys tomorrow.